What's up? Welcome to the vlog. I kind of feel like David Dobrik right now in the whole all black get up, but he shouldn't be the only one allowed to wear all black. I like wearing all black too. Today we're gonna talk about Miley Cyrus's new album, Younger Now, and we're gonna get in-depth and nerdy and spiritual because that's how we do it, and that's me. I want to listen to it just a little bit more though before we get into any of that. I'm gonna go skate around. Alright, let's get right into this. So first I want to say Miley Cyrus is only a year older than me, so we grew up at the same time, and when she was making young girl music with Hannah Montana stuff, I wasn't into it because it was young girl music. And she really was just that for years for me growing up until the Bangers era in 2013, when she claimed her position as a pop culture icon through her crazy and raunchy antics. And I remember first listening to Bangers thinking, okay, this definitely isn't young girls music anymore, but it still doesn't really apply to me. It really reminded me of someone who first goes to college and is like, yeah, screw everything my parents taught me growing up, screw society's labels and expectations, and which is a proper stage of growth, but I felt like I'd already gone through that stage, and so didn't apply to me. But like I said, it's still an important stage of growth. So I want to give a few different lenses to look at Miley Cyrus's career. First, there is construction. This is the phase of our life where we learn conventional wisdom, the proper way to act in public places. Don't run across the street without looking. And then also constructing our basic values. Spending time with family is important. You shouldn't lie. You shouldn't be a jerk. You shouldn't steal things. We all need to go through this. Then there is deconstruction, where you actually start questioning the things that you grew up with. Start saying things like, I'm gonna need some evidence for that. Or you start experiencing things in your life or having different interactions with people where all the ways that you thought in your brain just explode and you realize things are way more different than you thought they were. And you start tearing everything down and realizing that you need to do this in order to grow. And I think that's the Bangers era. And she kind of admits this in interviews too. It's interesting, I'm not sure if people really realize, but she started writing Bangers only a year and a half after ending the Hannah Montana show. And so she self-admittedly is totally like, let me be as opposite as possible from what I was. Let me just tear the whole thing apart, set the whole thing on fire and deconstruct this whole mess. Step all over everyone's expectations of me and expectations of what a pop star should be. But this album, Younger Now, I think reveals to us the third stage. Reconstruction. Reconstruction, I think, starts to occur when our deconstruction phase gets annoying, when you realize there's more to life. During my deconstruction phase, I deconstructed a lot of the theology and spiritual values I grew up with, and I studied and inhaled thousands of different pages of perspectives and all that. And the people around me actually enjoyed hearing me talk and discuss and debate about this different stuff because it was stuff that they had never heard before. And people would legit just say, hey, say something interesting, say something crazy, say something that blows my mind. And then I would just deconstruct a basic thing that a lot of Christians grew up believing but obviously isn't legit. And I would get in a lot of debates with friends, and then I got to a point where I'm like, this is boring. I want something of substance. I want something that's actually gonna build people up, not blow their mind. And then you return to a type of construction, but it's building values from a way more honest place as opposed to a naive one. Some could even call these stages naivety, critique, and then a post-critical naivety, where you realize things like principles and dogma are fickle because we're fickle creatures, but they have their value, and we can create them from an honest place. And I think Younger Now represents Miley Cyrus's beginning of her reconstruction phase. That's extremely clear in the lead single, Younger Now, where she talks about embracing the person that she was, even though that's no longer who she is now. And in interviews, people are trying to weirdly get her to admit that the Bangers period was just a phase, and she's like, no, that wasn't just a phase, it was like a necessary stage for me to get where I needed to get. Deconstruction to reconstruction. I want to give you another interesting lens to look at this stuff through as well. Okay, one of my favorite things to talk about is spiral dynamics. It's a theory of growth and consciousness, basically. Everyone goes through these stages, and as you go through them, it's better not to talk about them as higher levels, but further levels. No levels are necessarily better than the other ones. The first stage of consciousness we go through is called survivalistic. I'm just gonna give a super quick overview of this stuff, and maybe I could go more in depth in another video. And the survivalistic stage, your greatest value is survival, water, shelter. Then magical, where you believe in things like Santa Claus and the Tooth Fairy, and your greatest value is community and family. Then egocentric, where your greatest value is power. And this is just simply the healthy development of an ego, which we all need, the sense that you can actually do things in the world. Then authoritarian, where your greatest value is following some sort of law. Things are good because they are right, and they've always been right, because it says it right here. And if you don't do what it says right here, you are wrong. Then strategic, where you break free from that and like, if you're gonna tell me right from wrong, I'm gonna need some evidence. Kind of like the typical person who goes off to college and realizing the things that he grew up with isn't necessarily legit. Very logic-centered, very deconstructionist. Then egalitarian, or communitarian. Each stage is represented by colors, usually when people talk about them, but we don't really have time to get into that. And this one is represented by green, and it makes a lot of sense because all you have to do is think about kind of like the stereotypical Greenpeace people who are all about saving the world and us paying attention to things we don't usually pay attention to, like minorities, and making sure people's voices are heard that we don't pay attention to, but at the same time are kind of mean. It's called the mean green meme, because as people progress through these different stages, they usually have disdain for the previous stage that they were at. And the mean green meme has the most disdain for everyone at the other stages, while at the same time trying to look outward and seeing how we can include everyone and make sure everyone's taken care of. It's a bit of a frustrating paradox. But this is first tier consciousness. After this, I don't know what the heck that is. Second tier, where the first stage in that is integral, where for the first time you're actually able to recognize all the stages within yourself and able to accept them and integrate them. I'm a total nerd for this stuff. Now let's kind of use this as a lens to look at Miley Cyrus' career. I think she was going through these proper stages as she grew up, and then around the Bangers era, she went through this very deconstructionist phase. It was like, screw everything, let me tear it all apart, set it on fire. And then to the egalitarian phase with starting the Happy Hippie Foundation, where they give special attention to helping homeless LGBT youth. And she was hardcore for Hillary Clinton and was way more vocal about feminism, and at the same time being like, F Donald Trump. There's the mean part of the mean green meme. And then Donald Trump wins. And we usually go from stage to stage through some sort of trauma or tragedy that gets all of the boxes in our head of how we thought things worked to explode. Donald Trump wins. She later posts a video saying, I guess I accept Donald Trump as my president. Then puts out this album where she's actually finally able to accept all of these parts of herself. Like I love in the Younger Now video where she's dancing with this little puppet version of herself, because I think if we look at her early career, we could all see that she was kind of a puppet. But instead of trying to set it on fire, she's like, hey, that's part of me. It's all part of me. And now from this new stage that I'm at, I can communicate with all sorts of people and all sorts of stages. And most of the album is still love songs and breakup songs, as you'd expect, but I think they're now written from a more honest place. One example of that is she's actually writing them. Most of the songs from her early career weren't written by her, but were written by a group of people who write pop songs for pop artists, like a literal hit machine. All right, here's Hit Me Baby One More Time for TLC. TLC don't want it? Okay, here, Britney Spears. Miley Cyrus always did have a part in it, but the same thing happened even with Bangers. Wrecking Ball has like 8 people on the writing credits, and she's not one of them. But then you see on the very experimental psychedelic pop album, Miley Cyrus and Her Dead Pets, she does actually start writing way more. There's songs that just say straight up Miley Cyrus. And that's the case even more so on Younger Now. A lot of the songs, the only writing credit, Miley Cyrus. And the ones that aren't, it's just like her and like one other dude. Most of the time that being Oren Yoel, I think is how you say his name, who produced the whole album. So this album is written from a place of maturity and integration and growth, which is why I'm reviewing a Miley Cyrus album. I would never review any other Miley Cyrus album because it doesn't apply to me or the work I do, but this one does. Because I'm all about growth, helping people grow through the necessary stages they need to go through. And I'm obsessed with talking about this stuff, helping people through deconstruction and reconstruction and doing it in a healthy way. So yeah, I haven't really talked about any of the songs. Younger Now is awesome. Malibu is dope to drive around to. I thought Week Without You was cool, because it's W-E-E-K, Without You, and you're expecting it to be about without you I'm so weak, but it's like, if I had a week without you, I'd be probably better off. And I really love the sound of She's Not Him, and it really hits you, super emotional. It really surprised me. So yeah, go check it out for yourself. At the very least, go check out the Younger Now music video, very interesting. Leave a comment, tell me what you thought of it, or what you thought of my review, which is more of like an analysis of Miley. I don't know what this was. It was me. Share it if you thought it was cool. Subscribe, all that stuff. Thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate the support. See you later.